the group that's coming up is our Young Professional Leadership Group. And in fact, they don't know how to sync either. They're constantly surprising their entire community with the advancements that they make. And moderating the session is Konstantina Galionsi, intern at Community Federal Savings Bank and social media manager of TEDx Larissa. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chris, for introducing me. And I would like to thank Philo for Thought for welcoming me and the panel members for our third panel, which is the Young Professionals panel. With me today are John Papaspanos, who is Attorney and Director of the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce Young Professionals Division, Paul Politis, who has served as the lead philanthropist and nonprofit executive for key missions, including the Orthodox Christian Prison Ministry and the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America's annual Stewardship Appeal, and Konstantinos Ouranitsas, who is CFO of Philo for Thought and chair of the National Hellenic Student Association of North America and associate at Deloitte. So without further ado, I would like to begin the questions of my panel. And I would like to begin by asking you, have you encountered any challenges while working from home in your work-life balance or in any other ways? All three of you can answer this question, and I will begin with Konstantino first.
First, thank you for moderating this panel. Thank you, Chris, for inviting me and the rest of us to join this panel. So I guess work-life balance, I think, is something everyone struggles with generally, but has been even more so during the time of the pandemic. And now hopefully things will slowly shift back to normal. We have seen people going back to work. I don't go back to work until probably after September. But the challenge that I've faced is that I'm at my desk, my couch is over here, my bed is behind, everything is very close to where you work. So the expectation at times is that you have more availability to work, or when we were in lockdown and you couldn't do anything else, that work was the only thing that you could theoretically do in the mind of the employers. So that's been a difficult thing to overcome. Luckily, my team and my company has been pretty respective of time, and you are able to find that balance. But I definitely see that has been a difficult situation for a lot, myself included. But it has, living so close to where you work has become kind of the issue of the day, I guess.
Definitely. And I think a lot of us can relate to that as well. What about you, Paul?
So I'm an outlier here. So thank you guys for having me. So I've been working remotely now for close to 8 years. My job at the Orthodox Christian Prison Ministry, I actually was pivotal in making the national nonprofit into a virtual remote space where I had my staff work in different sectors of the nation and working at different hours and whatnot. So in the beginning, the first year when we went remote, it was challenging trying to get acclimated to the whole environment itself. But like with any type of work like that, it requires discipline, repetition, and pretty much training on yourself. So the first year it was difficult, but then after the next 3 or 4 years, I actually quite enjoyed it. I was able to produce a lot more work at higher quality and work a little bit more hours, but dedicate myself to my nonprofit industry. So has it been a challenge over the past year? No, life has remained the same for me as for the most part. But over the course of the year, I kind of saw the trend of companies now going remote or wanting to go remote, and I'm kind of a breathing, living testament to it. So.
I think that definitely gives you an advantage as compared to everyone else who's had to adjust and you haven't. What about you, John?
Sure. So during the pandemic, it has been easy to blur the boundary between work and personal life, given that we're always a few steps away from the computer, as Costa mentioned, and the absence of several natural interruptions in the typical workday, such as your daily commute. Without interaction with the supervisors, I know that some employees, especially in my company, they feel the need to have a greater presence virtually, albeit virtually in the company, by taking on greater responsibilities to ensure they're not skipped over for opportunities. So I think one challenge is you have this constant anxiety because you don't have the face time with your supervisors and the leadership structure in your company to be able to get promoted, to get like the plum work assignments. So I think the anxiety that's created from that source has been prominent. I know in my personal experience, work from home has been a net positive. However, I automatically gain 3 hours from my commute, and I'm steps away from my kitchen where I can cook my own meals, and a lot of times be introspective and to pursue other interests besides work. I think one thing I've gained, I know that I'm taking a positive spin to the question, I've gained greater clarity as to what I want to engage in my future in terms of my career. I've networked a lot more, and I think it's been overall net positive. So there are challenges, but I think it's been a beneficial period for me at least.
Perfect. Thank you so much. What resources or skills do you guys believe young professional leaders need? Costa?
I think probably two biggest things, and I'm going to dive into them a little bit, is patience and networking. I think on the patience front, it's important that people, that leaders, and just generally young professionals in whatever state it is, that you have patience to stay cool when you're in a difficult situation, to patience to teach people in whatever it may be, if it's like teaching them what to do at work or teaching them how to do something in, let's say, a Greek organization, or teaching people how to avoid the mistakes that you have made before. Patience also to answer people's questions when they run into problems. And the patience also, I think probably more importantly, is like to not get frustrated when you feel frustrated, or to at least not be publicly frustrated. Because all of that, I think, tells a lot about someone. And then to the networking point, I think all three of us, on here, the speakers, would probably say the same thing, that building your network is probably one of the most important things that you can do. And it's not just professionally, right? Like you can network to help advance your career, but you can also social network, right? You can get new friends, you can get advice, you can find a mentor, you can network for fun. I mean, I enjoy meeting people, I enjoy having conversations with people. So the more that you can, I think, be patient in some sense, and the more that you can network, the better off you are.
Definitely, networking is very important. This panel, I think, is a testament to that. What about you, Paul?
I think the biggest quality is compassion. Over the years, working with different organizations, one thing I've noticed with leaders who I kind of find miss the target is they lack somewhat compassion. And I look at it as everybody has a story, everybody has some type of background, everybody who comes to the table has something to offer. And if we don't listen to our team, if we don't work well together as a team and being compassionate and trying to be understanding, I think we lose sight of that. And usually a leader is somebody who not only takes charge, but also is alongside his team, or his or her team, shoveling, grinding and mining at it alongside, as opposed to somebody just dictating, giving out orders. So with compassion and humility, I feel that's the most important aspect of being a leader.
Great. Thank you so much, Paul. And you, John.
Sure. So I think we live in the best of times. The market is flush with capital. I think the use of social media platforms like LinkedIn has leveled the playing field for networking. The creation and sharing of data is unprecedented in terms of scope and speed. But the main challenge beside the leaders of today is how to assemble the human financial capital necessary to achieve their objectives in the face of fierce global competition. And the most critical resource for a young professional, I believe, is resourcefulness, not resources. We have plenty of resources, but the success of individuals is dependent on those who can quickly adapt to a new or a different situation in a highly dynamic world, and to have the problem-solving skills to confront the new problems that arise and to manage them with the resources that they do have at their disposal, which is quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all have a lot of resources to our disposal, and that's a benefit that only this generation has. Do you guys feel that the past year has been an opportunity for younger individuals to showcase their talents? We'll start with you, Costa, again.
I think it has. I mean, what you're given now is essentially more freedom, right? You're not in in an office. Your boss cannot check up on you. They cannot see you in passing. So you're really given an opportunity to show what you can do and what you can do with limited supervision. Even if your boss is a micromanager and they're still contacting you, there's still a sense of kind of freedom, and you have to take advantage of that and really show what you're able to do with that.
Definitely, Costa. What about you, Paul?
It's kind of a loaded question. It's yes or no. For the most part, I don't feel like young professionals, especially during this whole lockdown, were able to show off their talents, especially being behind Zoom calls, behind phone calls, emails. You don't really get to understand that person, whether their talents or skills. But for certain people in certain industries like graphic design and IT and cybersecurity, I think that industry, young professionals in that field, were able to shine and kind of, expose themselves and show off their talents. So.
Yeah, definitely, Paul. And what about you, John?
Sure. I took a more positive spin than the prior question. Here, I'll be a little more negative. So in an apprentice-based field like the legal field, I think the pandemic has been a hindrance to professional development. There's no substitute for seeing and listening to a more seasoned professional practitioner practice their craft every day. I think it's far more effective to absorb information via in-person discussions and interactions, especially with like the whiteboard and having those meetings, in-person meetings, I think are extremely critical for development of a young professional. So I think as soon as everyone's vaccinated and they feel comfortable, they should get back to the office as soon as possible. I think there's going to be some sort of like balancing act, maybe 1 or 2 days you work from home, but I think FaceTime is really important, is what I realized.
Yeah, definitely agree. And bouncing off of that, what do you think is our responsibility as young professionals in the Greek community? How does someone get involved in the Hellenic community and become a leader within it? Costa?
So as far as the first part, our responsibility, I think, is to really embody what Hellenism is, and then to spread that and to kind of radiate that, and ultimately to pass it on to the next generation. So we got from our parents instilled values, and now it is our job to take that and pass it on to our families in the future. As far as getting involved, I'm involved in a lot of organizations, and over the years I've been in a lot of different organizations. Right now, obviously I'm with Field for Thought. I'm on the Hellenic Initiative New Leader Board. I'm the chairman of the National Hellenic Student Association. So there's a lot of different involvements that I try to do, all kind of geared towards younger people. And I think kind of some ideas and like ways people can get involved. First is show up. I think that's probably the most important thing you can do. And regardless of the event, it could be a conference, it could be a happy hour, it could be a virtual event, it could be a speaker series, gala, fundraiser, whatever it is, show up, I think is the first thing. And then begin to join those organizations. A lot of them are membership based. You can join, become a member. And then from there, if you're looking to become a leader within it, start asking to get involved, and then maybe become a board member. So I think there's a natural progression, but it all starts with showing up and kind of showing up broadly, regardless of what. Don't just show up to the Greek night. Don't just show up to the gala, but show up to the conference, show up to the networking events, the speaker series, fundraisers, those kind of things.
Yeah, thank you, Costa. What about you, Paul?
So as for responsibilities to young professionals, I agree with Konstantinos. It's, the first step is to show up, but I think the next step is to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty. So I kind of go off the sense of philoxenia. Having been born and raised in the Bronx and growing up in Jesuit high school and university, I was taught early on to provide service back to your community. And I think the one thing is to understand is when giving back to the community, it shouldn't be only ethnic based. It should start wherever the closest opportunity you have. So by supporting other communities, such as low income housing in the South Bronx or in Harlem and things like that, gives you this sense of, to give back to your local community, and also instills that philoxenia in all of us, that not only are we supporting ourselves, but supporting other communities and other denominations. So that way other communities kind of lock in and act like the UN. We all support one another in this happy world. So.
Thank you, Paul. What about you, John?
Sure thing. So I know this isn't like extremely complex process, and I think the panelists like covered most of the points that I was going to mention. I think in general, I don't want to go into like Pericles' funeral oration, but you try to transmit a community that is better than the one that you inherited, as Costa mentioned earlier. That's the overall objective. And I think the first step is to start identifying the lay of the land, what type of organization exists, the different categories. Is it a Chamber of Commerce? Is it a student organization? Is it a regional organization like a Cretan Federation or Northern Greece, or even like a village organization I'm involved with as well. So the first step is to understand your interests and then identify the leaders in those organizations that you seek to emulate. And you try to narrow it down to one or two organizations. And then once you settle on the one, I think you should devote your full attention and see if you can devote greater time and effort in that one organization. And it's helpful to offer up a skill that you have. Like, I'm good at marketing, I'm great at writing, or I can do the production for the organization. So you try to identify like a critical need that you can fulfill. And then once you're within the circle of leadership, you build rapport, you identify the power structure in the organization, who calls the shots, who does the programming, the hubs of the organization's social network. And then you try to ask if you can contribute more depending on your schedule. And then eventually it's just like, of course, it's a natural progression. You become more of a leader and you try to provide additional value add. And it all depends on who you are and the organization's needs. So it's a very complex analysis, but it's easier than how we described it.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Moving on, what is the importance of philanthropy/volunteering for you? And how do you balance your time between philanthropy and work? Costa?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand kind of what philanthropy is. And I think Artemis in the previous panel kind of said it pretty well, that philanthropy isn't just giving money. It could be supporting a friend. It could be actually volunteering and getting your hands dirty, as mentioned kind of earlier. So I think it's important that people find a cause that they really care about and are passionate about. And then either through your time, which effectively is more valuable than money, right? Because money is exponential, time is limited. So either directly supporting something, volunteering at a food bank or at whatever it is that someone's passionate about, or by joining a board of a nonprofit organization and giving back in that way, I think is kind of the approach people should take. I mean, pick something that you're passionate about and then kind of see that through. I kind of balance my life. I mean, I have a good portion, right, is to work. A good portion is to my volunteering and giving back to the community through my membership on different organizations and boards. And that's where I really find my passion. So that's the way I've been doing it. And I balance my time there. But I mean, people have the amount of time that they can give is different. And if it's something like I really love doing it, so that's why basically my life is two things: great things and work. So it falls somewhere in there. So find your passion and then see that through in a philanthropic, volunteering way and throughout your life.
Perfect. Thank you. What about you, Paul?
So I've actually kind of meshed philanthropy with my career. My first job out of college was actually working for the St. Patrick's Cathedral down in Manhattan, where I actually learned that through the nonprofit sector, you can actually kind of mesh your career with philanthropic work, and actually enjoyed it because at the end of the day, at 5 o'clock when it struck, I was able to go home and say, you know what, I did a great job here. I've been supporting low-income people in low-income neighborhoods. I'm supporting children at risk, things like that. So philanthropy to me was kind of like, this is the career path I want to do, because I always wanted as a life goal was to make a large social impact in which it improves the lives of many, no matter what background or denomination you were from. So I kind of meshed it, but I still volunteer. I kind of use my skills and talents I've learned over the years, working at many nonprofits, to churches and small organizations, free of charge, just to give them an insight on how to properly prepare themselves for the 21st century and how to get them kind of build a strong foundation so that way their mission could kind of outlast whatever economic or global emergency that may occur. So that's where I took it. So I literally wanted to kind of, like I said, build a career where at the end of it, whether I retire or not, I look back and said I've really made a huge social impact. So
definitely, that's great role model. And what about you, John?
Sure thing. So I think philanthropy, first of all, love of humanity, love of mankind. So how do you express that love? It's very idiosyncratic. I mean, do you want to be magnificent, benefactor of a cathedral? You want to cut a check to build the dome? If you have the resources, do you want to, spend time in the food bank on the weekends? Do you want to teach Greek school or Sunday school? Everyone's going to express that love in their special way based on their abilities and resources. So I think it's a very specific question. For me, I realized when I was in, professional setting now for 7-8 years, I'm realizing even no matter what type of success you achieve, climbing this corporate ladder, closing deals or, showing that you're capable, it's an empty success unless you try to balance it out and do a little bit of charity philanthropic works on the side in your spare time. I think that's going to set you up for better success towards achieving like eudaimonia, which is like a broader concept of objective happiness in your life. So I think it's extremely important. I feel much more balanced now that I've been more engaged. Like, for example, I help with the National Hellenic Student Association and Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce and the Hellenic Initiative. I'm participating in those events. There's quite a lot of opportunity for philanthropic pursuits and activities in the Greek American landscape that were not around even 10, 15 years ago. So I think it's easy to achieve that greater sense of balance. And for me, I do it when I have free time. If I'm, in downtime and during the day, if I have a lull, or on the weekends, whenever you get the time to do it, I think it accrues great benefits. I think psychologically you feel great when you do it, and it reinvigorates you, gives you a sense of greater purpose.
Thank you so much, John. And now for our last question, a bit looking into the future, what are you looking forward to the most in your professional career in the next couple of years? Kosta?
I think everyone loves to progress, and I think just being able to take on more responsibility and higher level of responsibility is something that I'm looking forward to kind of in the long run. And then in the short run, to be honest, I'm excited to get back to normal life, to be back in the office, to be back and seeing people again. So I'm very much kind of looking forward to that.
Perfect. I think all of us are. What about you, Paul?
In the next couple of years, basically what I'm probably looking forward to is getting involved with more nonprofits, helping them out, try to spread that social good, that common good that we look for, and also try to reinvigorate the next generation coming, that no matter what you've taken from life, there's a moment you have to think to yourself to give back, whether it is to make a donation or to volunteer at a soup kitchen. So I'm looking forward to making that social change and getting the younger generation more involved philanthropic, whether they make it a career choice or basically it's a hobby of theirs, as some people like to put, just to get them into that notion, into that mindset, to make the world a better place for future generations to come.
Thank you so much, Paul. And what about you, John?
Sure. So I think in my professional sphere, I would like to build out a robust deal team. So there's like 3 or 4 very young associates that are coming in the pipeline, and just to train them and just impart as much knowledge I can about the law to them so they can become like great attorneys. That's like my personal goal. And they're going to support, our efforts as well. And it'll give us like greater leverage to take on more work. And it's exciting to grow a team at work. That's my professional objective. And then in the charitable sphere, I want to build an apparatus at the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce, an infrastructure that's going to be able to produce meaningful and beneficial content programming for the community, and then to create like a sustainable process by which even if I step away, it's going to be able to maintain itself. I think that's like really important. And for successorship, a lot of organizations don't think about that. It's 60, 70-year-old leadership that don't want to let go of the reins, and then when they do let go, there's no one to grab those reins. So there's a sudden drop in activity in that organization. I think that's what I'm trying to achieve.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you all for participating in this panel. And I'll give mic back to Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation in the panel and for reminding us of the needs of the young professional community and also of the benefits of having your energy. God bless you, and keep the energy up.